Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm in a race with time. I put my life on the record, always giving it effort at night. I'm always restless, this music's a life sentence. Perfecting my craft in seconds, the essences of the earth. Used to make the world turn, people earn was not deserved. While the weak get knocked down, got people losing their health. This evil's making me mad, I hope I make my father proud. Devote my life to writing raps, I hope I'm on the right path. Spending years of my life that I could never take back. So nod your head to the beat, if you ever had a dream. And everybody else around you just never seemed to believe. That sound exactly like me, I was right in your position. So listen close what I'm saying, don't ever give up your visions on the real. I never saw people doubted I would make it this far, but I'm proving them wrong. Everybody criticized and they hated on me, but I just stay strong. And no matter what I heard them tell me, it didn't change my mind. I'm still pushing on, breaking hearts. I'm in a race with time.
I'm looking down at the bottom at Sean's face, and he's just like, just staring at it.
And for being an audio medium, that's a really great start, Nick.
Yeah, well, you can find us on YouTube. You can find us on all your favorite podcasting platforms, video, audio, however you choose to watch us. This is the Gridiron Podcast, episode 2. I'm Nick Shook. The guy with the wonderful voice is Sean Barry. And right in the middle, for those of you watching on YouTube, is Katie Caldwell. And you know, Katie, I noticed recently, I haven't been hitting the D in your name, phrasing. And this time around, I made sure to hit Caldwell.
I don't like any of that.
I also don't
like any of
Nick,
that.
Nick, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Enunciation. I have no further comments.
How have you been saying it?
I've just been kind of like mushing it together, just like Caldwell.
I mean,
I know you're from Pittsburgh, downtown,
Downtown. Hey, look, we're going to meet up with Kate Caldwell down there at Old Crick.
See, that's the Yinzer. Basically, I was channeling my inner Yinzer, even though I'm not from Pittsburgh. This is episode 2 of the Gridiron Podcast. We're back after a couple of weeks off because, well, there wasn't much to talk about. F1 went on an April break. Football, the NFL itself, not a whole lot, just kind of standard stuff. But that changes this week, folks. That changes with the start of the NFL draft on Thursday night, live from Kansas City, Missouri. Not Kansas City, Kansas. It's one of those weird cities that straddles the state line. But no, this is coming from Kansas City, Missouri, home of the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. How fortunate that it turned out that way. And we're going to have plenty to talk about. But before we even get to that, well, guys, first off, how was your week? How have your weeks been?
It's been a long April with not much to talk about, no F1 to talk about. Baseball has been fun though. I know we talk about F1 and football on this podcast, but I mean, like, I kind of sunk myself into the start of the MLB season and the Stanley Cup playoffs, which we will actually talk a little bit about later, and we will tell you why. But yeah, I've just been kind of diving into baseball, and my two favorite teams, my hometown Pittsburgh Pirates, and then the team I cover, the Tampa Bay Rays. They are the two hottest teams in baseball, so it's been a lot of fun. So my April has been good. It's been good. Katie, how's your April been?
Very medium. Just very, I've been productive. Not doing anything fun, really. I'm happy to be doing the pod again with you guys. Because, yeah, I've just been doing stuff around the condo and need a little boost. This is a good boost for me.
Is it still cold in Cali? Is it still snowing feet?
No. Last podcast it was.
Well,
but no, it's like a rapid change into spring here. It's quite warm and lovely. So that's a huge mood boost for sure.
What is your definition of quite warm and lovely? Give it to me in Fahrenheit.
For April.
I don't know Fahrenheit. Nobody knows.
Then give it to me in Celsius, and the
Fahrenheit.
power of Google will bridge this gap that we have.
So we're into double digits now. So right now it's about 10 degrees. And then next week we're looking at 20, which is like shorts, t-shirt weather.
All right, Sean. So those of us who are uneducated on the inner workings of Celsius, 10 degrees Celsius is roughly 50 degrees Fahrenheit. 20, when it really heats up out there in Canada,
For springtime,
68.
Nick.
So can I just say that Celsius has never made – no, I'm going into this. Celsius has never made any sense to me because look at what we just said. 10 degrees is like, all right, it's a little chilly outside. I probably don't need shorts and a T-shirt. But at 20 degrees, oh, my God, like everything is on fire. That doesn't make sense. You have essentially just doubled, right, your temperature, but you actually haven't.
Sean, You're embarrassing yourself right now. We don't have to go into this.
Come on, you don't see how I got there?
Sure.
Okay, so 10 minus 10 is the same amount of temperature difference as plus 10. That makes sense in my world from 0 degrees.
All I'm saying is like a 10-degree difference. A 10-degree difference from 10 to 20 is 10 degrees is fall, 20 degrees is summer.
This is like big Florida man energy you're giving us right now.
Good,
no.
good.
Oh, no.
I'm turning to the dark side. I'm gonna get a pet alligator next week.
Oh boy! Everybody, watch out! Big B chiming in says Celsius, get that out of here. We agree.
Big B,
We
I thought you were
ignorant
on my
Americans
team,
agree.
man.
But this is episode 2 of the Gridiron Podcast, and now that we've gotten the introductions and then hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing over there? Out of the way, we're gonna get into the NFL. It is the draft this week. But we aren't going to talk about the draft just yet. Because what happened this week, guys? What finally, for the love of God, finally happened this week?
The Pittsburgh Pirates signed Brian Reynolds to an extension.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry, I'm happy about that.
This podcast brought to you by Bob Nutting.
Oh God, no, never. No, I wouldn't take his money. We are not sponsored by anybody, so we will take your money, Bob Nutting, but begrudgingly so.
What happened this week, Katie?
Michael Jr. said it best on Twitter that we're all winners because this is over now. We don't have to keep talking about the speculation of Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets.
Oh, Katie. Oh, you are
I'm
so
done.
naive. You are so you are so naive to think that Aaron Rodgers will even let us think about stop talking about him for one day. No, there will be something else to talk about now that this is all behind us. Yes, Aaron Rodgers got traded to the Jets. He will come up with something else to keep us entertained until August when we go to training camp.
I do trust that. He is very, very dramatic, but that's why I said the speculation of it. Because I think we talked about this when it was still the Sean and Shook podcast featuring Katie Caldwell, that weeks and weeks ago, I said on this podcast that I was tired of every time I turn on the NFL Network, it's like, the deal it could happen, guys. It could happen. It's like, man, let's stop talking about it until it happens. So I'm happy that we can finally stop talking about the speculation that it might happen. Because going into draft night, I didn't want to talk about Aaron Rodgers.
Is there anywhere, and maybe you guys can answer this, Nick, specifically you, like, is there somewhere where, like, I don't know, either NFL Network through to Ian Rappaport or, ESPN through to Adam Schefter, and it's just like them at home, like eating popcorn in front of the TV, and they just like look at the camera and go, guys, there's nothing. Stop coming to me. Stop coming to me. All right. I'm watching Looney Tunes with my kids here. What do you want? Like, is that like that would have been the perfect segment? Like, and here's an update from Adam Schefter on what's going on between the Jets and Packers trading for Aaron Rodgers. And it's like him, sunglasses, like risky business style, like collared shirt on, underwear, like eating popcorn. Like, guys, stop it. There's nothing.
If I had to pick,
if I had to pick one person from our network that would do that and do it well, it would be Ian Rappaport. But no, we have maintained our professionalism in this matter, which has dragged out for far too long, so much that we're not even really going to talk about this, other than the fact that Aaron Rodgers, the trade to the Jets, is damn near official. We're not quite there. We're almost there. But the parameters of the deal are laid out. The framework is set. It's time to put the photo inside the frame and hang it on the wall, and it'll be done by the end of the week, hopefully before the draft. We don't have to speculate. We don't have to get to day 2 and think, is today the day the draft happens? Because it already, or not the draft, but the trade. It already happened. It's just a matter of crossing T's, dotting I's, letting the ink dry on the paper, submitting it to league office, and not screwing it up like Sashi Brown did that one time he tried to trade for A.J. McCarron, and they didn't fax it in time. Not going to do that.
I want to know what your thoughts on the actual trade itself are. The haul the Packers got, what the Jets got in return. Any thoughts?
Well, Bridget's back here looking at me because she just got home and she's scared to walk into the background. But what she doesn't know is that the background is very small, so you won't even see her except for a passing glance. What do I think about the trade? I think that thank God it's done.
A passing fancy.
The Picnic, starring Jude Law. I'm glad it's done. I think that the pick swap in the first round makes sense. I think the Jets slightly overpaid by giving the conditional second. That's certainly going to become a first, provided Rodgers doesn't get hurt. But I also think that the position that they're in right now, they have to make that deal. They think they're a quarterback away, and there's a quarterback who's still pretty darn good, debatable to a degree how good, who has expressed a desire to come play for them, and that is Aaron Rodgers, and you must go get him. And if this is what it takes, then this is what it takes. But the whole pick swap thing, because like on its face, that's 2 firsts and a second. No, they swap first.
No, they swap first round picks. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a necessary evil. We got the damn thing done. Big B says the Packers won, but Big B is a Packers fan. So, take that with a grain of salt. So can we move on from that now? Because now all that's left is for him to be introduced, right?
Right. I mean, he's probably going to come up with some, psychedelic, that he took on draft day, and he's going to go live on Pat McAfee's show and talk about it. And he's going to say, guys, I'm actually going to do an 8-day darkness retreat. I'm going to push the boundaries, and it's going to be in a submarine, and I'm going to go deeper than James Cameron even did. It's actually a darkness retreat inside a sunken suite of the Titanic.
Oh my
while God. I'm on shrooms.
Love that for him.
And it's going to be, I'm going to be wearing, be wearing Jet Stealth Black the whole time to really enhance the darkness. Yeah, that's how we feel about it. You're right, Sean. He's not going to stay out of the conversation. He'll find ways. He's in the biggest media market. We'll be hearing about him forever. Any thoughts on him moving to number 8?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, it's his college number. Good for him. Wasn't Joe Namath 12?
Yes.
So, I mean, okay, I can understand why you wouldn't wear 12 with the Jets anyway. Is his number even retired? I would imagine it is, but
yeah, but I think he gave permission for him to wear it. But I'm glad he's not wearing 12 in that jersey. It sucks. It looks bad.
Yeah. No. Yeah. And a 12 in the entire, AFC East is kind of a taboo number anyway. They finally got rid of 12, so they don't need to see anyone else wearing it. But I thought the trade was fair. I mean, and we so rarely see fair trades anymore. We see one team just astronomically overpaying. Did the Jets overpay a little bit? Maybe, but at the same time, they've hit on so many draft picks lately that they don't really need all their draft picks in the future. They need to win now, like you said, Nick.
Yeah, there comes a time when you have to stop drafting for the future and make moves for now.
Well, and you also don't really know who over and underpaid right now until we see how he fits into that system, right?
Right.
Like the big question is, which version of Aaron Rodgers are you going to get? No question. I think it's an upgrade. But I don't know how much of one it is. Like, what about, there's a chance, what if we're talking about this like a Russell Wilson in Denver situation after 5 or 6 weeks? Like, sorry, but
don't you put that evil on me. Don't you put that evil on me.
Just let me live my life. One thing I do know, though, is that, do you remember Zach Wilson's quote that if they were to ever sign a veteran quarterback, I'm going to make that dude's life hell in practice every day. And I just think that is going to age beautifully.
What if Zach Wilson, like when he said that, he's like, oh no, not competition wise, I suck. But at the same time, I'm going to put a tack on his chair. There's going to be a nail in his tire. I'm going to be really annoying. He's not going to have a fun time, just like mischievous stuff. He's about the size of like a little mischievous guy anyway. So,
and the question of what's your mom been up to?
There it is. I was waiting for it.
Aaron Rodgers is going to be like, I don't know.
He's like, well,
exactly.
He's like, I don't know. My mom's, the moms you're looking for are my age. So
repressed family trauma.
Weenie in the butt. All right. I think that wraps up that conversation. Let's move forward to the draft, where it sounds as if the Panthers have a consensus on number 1, and it's going to be Alabama's Bryce Young. We were in a situation prior where it was a debate. Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. Which one would they go with? I was in the CJ Stroud camp. Once again, I'm wrong. What else is new? It appears as though Frank Reich, Scott Fitterer, and everybody else in Carolina, that highly paid coaching staff that they've assembled there, has all come to the conclusion and the consensus, or as Frank Reich put it, Scott walked into my office and asked me if I wanted this quarterback. And I said, yes. It was like a proposal that he said yes to the ring. He literally said it was like a proposal. He said yes to the ring, and the marriage will be happening soon enough. So, are we surprised? This is the guy who's been atop most of the draft boards, or a lot of draft boards, not all of them. Depends on who you ask, for a while. And now I think it's a formality.
I am surprised, actually. I was high on CJ Stroud. I know you were, Nick. I followed all of your pre-draft coverage. You were down there in Columbus for his pro day. You were in Indianapolis too, right?
Yeah.
I thought CJ Stroud was the number 1 overall pick. I liked him over Bryce Young, and I thought the Panthers did too. I'm not surprised that they're picking Bryce Young so much as I am surprised that CJ Stroud seems to be kind of tumbling down draft boards a little bit. Like, he might not be number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. Like, that's what I'm most surprised about. So, well, first I want Katie's take, but then I want your take on this, Nick, because you're closer to this than any of us.
On the CJ Stroud thing specifically, well, Sean, that was our next question. No love for CJ Stroud. I'm perplexed. There was no feeling 3 weeks ago that this was going to happen, that there was some character issue or whatever was going to make him slide. On all accounts, he seemed like a guy who was in command, was a leader. I was at the pro day and he was right there next to his teammates, cheering them on the bench press, cheering them on in certain things before he went and did his thing. Seems like he's a guy that everybody likes. So there's no Bo Callahan, nobody shows up at his birthday party type thing here. So what is the question? I don't know. Maybe it's just a matter of preference. I'm not sure. If it was me and I had a team that I thought was built to welcome in a rookie quarterback and play him right away and have success, I would go CJ Stroud because I think his accuracy is unmatched in this class. It's not the strongest class, but I think that he's the best when it comes to accuracy. But apparently people think that, the people in Carolina at least think that Bryce Young is head and shoulders the guy. So it is interesting that it went from being a debate to being a foregone conclusion. But I think whoever gets CJ Stroud's probably going to be pretty happy. It's hard to argue with the tape. It's hard to argue with the results that he's produced. So, good on the Panthers for wanting Bryce Young. I hope it works out. He is a smaller quarterback. I'm not going to use the term diminutive because I was emailed by Tyler Lockett's dad one time and said, don't use that. That's derogatory. So I've eliminated that from my vernacular. And I will say that Bryce Young's not the biggest guy on the field. And as long as he can stay healthy, I'm sure he'll be good. Go ahead, Panthers. Godspeed. And we'll see where CJ Stroud lands, because that is really the big question here, right? It's not a matter of that they didn't take him or that they're not going to take him and that they don't like him, but who does like him? Do the Texans like him? Because that's the word around town right now, is that the Texans might not go quarterback at all, which is insane to me. I mean, you got Davis Mills and you got Case Keenum on your roster, and you think that that's enough, or you just don't like these guys enough that you want to get a playmaker at another position, which opens the next question, which is, where do they go? If you don't want a quarterback, who is that good that you're not going to take the most important?
Well, hold on. Before we move on, I want to know, Nick, in your mind, where does CJ Stroud go? Who takes him?
Well, I think that's an interesting question because there's a couple.
I only ask interesting questions,
I'll
Nick.
tell you what, Sean, you're quite a pro. You are a pro. I think that there's two scenarios I envision. I can't imagine that the Colts let him go. So I don't think he gets past 4. I think there's a chance that somebody moves up to 3, because if the Texans don't take him at 2, they go defense, that Cardinals pick becomes very valuable, and they could get a haul for a team that's looking for the quarterback of the future. Who moves up? Number 1 team on my list that might move up, pay attention to for a while with their top 30 visits, the way they've approached the quarterback position, despite making an addition this offseason, the Las Vegas Raiders. Reason being, Jimmy Garoppolo has a visible ceiling. We know what it is. Great run game, great defense, can get you to the Super Bowl. Can't win you the Super Bowl. Can get you the NFC Championship game a couple times. Can't get you past it, right? I think that if they're going to use him as the bridge, guy that knows Josh McDaniels' offense, ease CJ Stroud in, that's the team that trades up and gets him. But if nobody trades up and gets him, then I don't see him going past Indianapolis. So it's either 3 to a team like the Raiders, not necessarily only the Raiders, but like the Raiders, or it's 4 to Indianapolis, no further, at least in my opinion.
The Texans winning that last game is just looking worse and worse to me. Because I don't think it would have been as much of a question with Bryce Young. And you said it, Sean, the draft process has not been very kind to CJ Stroud the last few weeks. I feel like his stock has really, really fallen. But we've also seen that before. Think about the year where Justin Fields, it was no question he was going to be number 2. Mm-hmm. And then he
wasn't
leading up to it. And then he starts to fall. But I was reading about CJ Stroud today because it just doesn't really make sense how quickly he's fallen. And I saw a lot of people talking about the score on his S2 test, which is this cognition test. And I hadn't heard a lot about it leading into the draft the last few seasons. And I think it's only been around for the last 7 seasons. So did you guys hear about that?
Yeah.
So he scored 18% on that, which apparently is like abysmally low. Anything under 80, teams will look at that, and some teams will go, I'm not really into that. Hendon Hooker, I think, was 46.
As Dean Wormer would say, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
But I think it is a bit of an interesting thing, because I've heard a lot of people today, even because it's so much of the discourse of what is happening with Stroud. Why is he tumbling so far? Why all of a sudden are there character issues? But yeah, a lot of people are referencing this S2 test. And I don't think it's a big red flag, but I think it's because I don't think there's enough precedent for that where you go like, okay, this is who it connects to. But I think I look at that as more of an interesting case study for this season, because he will be drafted by someone, no question about that. But if he does tumble, like Nick, I thought about the Raiders. I'm also looking at a team maybe like the Titans who want to trade up and take that risk.
Yep.
So, yeah, but then I think about it too with the Texans. Like, it would be pretty risky to let him fall and Indy drafts him and then he cooks you twice a season.
Right.
You don't want that.
So when it comes to the Texans, like the thing I thought about is either they're kind of behind this narrative and they're saying, hey, you know what? We're going to take an edge rusher. It's a really deep edge rusher class. We're going to take an edge rusher. And then maybe next year, there's Caleb Williams. There's that May kid from UNC. And then they're just saying, we want Stroud. We are making this narrative up because we want Stroud. We want him to drop to us at 2. Look, he got an 18%. That's terrible. I mean, Anthony Richardson, he can't even read a college defense, and he scored better than this kid. He's not a good quarterback. There's that. Or maybe the Texans really are preparing to take an edge rusher or someone else and just hold out one more year, tank one more year and say, Caleb Williams, you are ours. Like maybe that's going to happen.
I think that theory is probably the best, Sean. If you really think that Caleb Williams is that good, then maybe it's worth it, right? Like if you have the rope, if you have the leash and you're not going to get fired in a year, then why not wait for the guy? Now that's a risk because you could win more games and not be in position again.
You could score a 2-point conversion in the last game of the year and pick number 2 overall instead of number 1 overall. Who knows? I do want to say, I want to speak on behalf of all bad test takers out there, of which I am one. Really bad test taker. I was once put in a closed room, given a math proficiency test for 3 hours. And lo and behold, I failed it. A room with no windows, no bathrooms, no drinks, no food, no nothing. And lo and behold, the tutor's like, oh, you failed this test. I'm like, yeah, I wonder why. My SAT scores were terrible. Still got into the colleges of my choice. But like, I
can't write.
Exactly. Can't read, can't write, can't score well in the SAT. I still graduated college with honors, still graduated high school with high honors. Like, it's all going to work out, CJ. Tests don't define you. Success does.
This is a pretty specific reaction time for quarterbacks, though. Like, I am interested to see if anything does come out of that, because what I was reading is that if you score high, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to translate to being a good quarterback, but they've never seen someone score low and still transition into being a good quarterback. And like I said, it's only been 7 seasons, and I think it's newer that this was leaked. I think it wasn't something that the NFL even released.
And but Joey Burrow's hands were too small,
But Joey Burrow also got 98%. So did Brock Purdy, was in the high 90s.
This makes me think, Katie, of the Wonderlic, which is an outdated test that they've gotten rid of and replaced it with this. And was it Vince Young who scored an 8 on it or something like that? I don't know what the score was out of, but it was bad. And yeah, he didn't have a great career by the end of it, but there was a few years where he was pretty damn good. How seriously do we take it? It's like Mo Designs Things chiming in here on Twitch as he watches the show. Thank you for watching. Thank you for chiming in. Says, how credible is that number? I don't know. Because like you said, Katie, there's proof of quarterbacks who score well doing well. But no quarterback who scored that low has done well. Well, what if this is an outlier? Do we put this much stock in a number? Do we really? The tape doesn't lie.
Well, and that's the argument otherwise. That's why I see it as more of an interesting case study than a blatant red flag. But man, you guys both said it. He has been just tumbling. A lot of people are saying he might not even go in the top 5, 10. I find it kind of wild that it happened really fast like that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. We'll see what happens, and we'll see how his career goes. I'm not the best when it comes to picking quarterbacks who are going to do well. I was worried about Josh Allen because of accuracy issues. He turned out fine, but he was also in a good situation. It's how good the situation is. Like, do you have a franchise that's willing to surround you with talent and give you the patience necessary to develop, or are you the Jets who dump you before the end of your second year? You know, that matters to me as much as anything. The raw talent, the ability, the polished skills, that's what matters the most, which does lead me to my next question, which is, where does Anthony Richardson land? Because this is a guy who's got all the physical tools, but this is a guy who is notably inaccurate in the mid-level of the field, like 8 to 15 yards. And it showed up in his workout, and it was all footwork. From my opinion, it was all footwork. You could see it. Just not having polished feet, kind of lackadaisically throwing the ball and sailing it. He can do everything with ease. He can 50 yards, flick of the wrist, but he hasn't been consistent enough, and there's not a long enough or a large enough sample size to really have the full faith and confidence in him. So where does he land? How far does he slide? Does he go to Katie's team, the Seahawks, in the 20s? Or is he gone before then? Is the team willing to take a risk? Are you more willing to take a risk on a guy who's not polished in his fundamentals than a guy who scores poorly on a test? Because that right there, I think, is a comparison where it's like, what really is more important to us?
I want to say this, and I want to be clear. I think whoever takes Anthony Richardson high in the first round is betting their future on a shaky bet. They're betting their future on a 12-leg parlay. And I think that's just too risky. I think Anthony Richardson is a second-day draft pick. Not even a second round, but a second-day draft pick. Just because, what did you just say a minute ago, Nick? With CJ Stroud, the tape is there. With Anthony Richardson, it's not the best tape in the world. It's not. And you just said so yourself. It's a shaky pick, and I think it's a shiny toy, and everyone wants to, buy stock when it's high. His stock might never be higher than what it is right now. The guy has been, like a lot of experts have said, he can't read a college defense. You're going to have to teach him how to read an NFL defense. That alone is going to be a bell that's going to be very hard to answer. So there's an uphill battle. The problem is a team is going to pick him high, or a team will most likely pick him high. Those are all bad teams, unless you're like at 10 with the Eagles, but obviously they just paid Jalen Hurts, so they're not going to draft a quarterback. Is the call to let this young stud play when you are 1-7, 1-8 going to be too much? Because this kid needs to sit for several years. If you're 1-7, if you're 2-10, time to see what Anthony Richardson's got. He's not going to be ready. Everyone has said he is not going to be ready year one, or maybe even year two, and you will ruin him and his career if you do that. So whoever takes him, if you take him high, you better make sure you have a plan, a 3-year plan, and make sure by year 3 he's ready. Because year 1, maybe even year 2, he's just not going to be.
That's a hot take, that he'd be a day 2 guy. And I like that you came in with a fire take. Sean, he's the fire starter. He's the fireman. Lil Wayne, that's Sean right there, minus the dreads. I don't know if that's realized. We don't need to see your bad hair day. Keep the hat on. As somebody who doesn't have hair, I'm still at liberty to say that. The physical tools are going to seduce a team into taking him. I hate to say it. It's going to happen. I don't see him being a day 2 guy, even though Big B says, he said Manziel but really he said Anthony will fall the second round. I just don't see it because the physical tools are so tantalizing. I mean, we are in a post Cam Newton era in which Cam won NFL MVP and got to the Super Bowl. And this kid's got a better arm than Cam ever did. And he's kind of built like him. He can run better than him. And you could transform a team with him if you put him in the right. Again, situation matters so much because like Sean said, you're 1-7, 1-8. You're the Cleveland Browns 2005. You're putting him in. Fans are calling for him. Put him in. Let him play. Season's over. Let him play. Well, that's how you ruin a kid, by not allowing him to grow. I think about the college defense, reading the college defense thing. It's been said, and it's known at this point, that Patrick Mahomes said he couldn't read a defense for a year or 2 until the middle of his second season. He sat out most of his first season. So you got to go to a team like the Texans, who got a Case Keenum, that's got somebody there to play now, I think. He can't be drafted by a team that needs a quarterback like him to play. They can have the luxury of resting him. Not resting, but sitting.
Real quick. having watched him at Florida for the last couple of years, there was a time where he was sitting behind Emory Jones and the Gators were off to a shaky start. And there was calls, hey, we got this young stud. We got Anthony Richardson. He's got a cannon. He's supposed to be the next big thing. He's supposed to be our next Tim Tebow. And Dan Mullen was like, he's not ready. I'm not going to put him in yet. And the Gators were just not having a good year. So he puts him in because Emory Jones wasn't cutting it. What happens? The Gators win a game. He's like, yes, okay. Guess who starts the next game? Emory Jones. Exactly. Because Dan Mullen knew what fans didn't. He just wasn't ready. And what happens? They threw him out there some more. And then fans found out he just wasn't ready. There was a disconnect there. And I don't think we ever saw what he could necessarily do in college career. Sorry, Katie, go ahead.
Great. I love that's great. I didn't know about that. I didn't watch him in Florida. I'm one of the I'm not big into college ball, so I'm in the process the last 6 weeks of just watching the tape. So that's interesting to me. But yeah, you guys said it, this is a player that a team has to properly develop him. And I do wonder if teams are great.
Just like me, great.
Great. But I do wonder if some teams are we're the system. We're the ones that could do it. But Nick, you brought up the Seahawks. We've talked about it before. Geno would be a great mentor, and there's not that pressure to start right away. As someone who cares about the Seahawks, I don't really like it because I thought they had great chemistry on offense last year. Their defense didn't hold up their end of the bargain. So I would love to see them, maybe if they can trade down and then grab them later, I'd be okay with that. But there's a part of me that wants to see Geno cook and take a Jalen Carter if he falls to them, or wait till next year and go for Caleb Williams or Drake May.
But what if you're not there to take him?
Trade.
Is it
sort
time,
it out?
Like you said earlier,
Figure it out.
Is it time to win now, Nick? Is it time to win now? Because the Seahawks do have a lot of weapons. They do have some young pieces. Is it time to trade up and win now? It might be in Seattle. It just might be. We saw it last year. They were supposed to be horrid, and they were a playoff team.
Yeah. That division's looking pretty rough this year too. I mean, the Colts too, because the Colts sound like they're out on Lamar Jackson. So I wouldn't be shocked to see them take a risk on that high ceiling.
Yeah, but the thing is if CJ Stroud's there at 4, you really going to take Richardson over him?
No, not a chance in hell.
The Colts have been through quarterback hell in the last 3 years. Since Phillip Rivers retired the last 2 years. Carson Wentz, disaster. Good, but a disaster. We all remember how Jim Irsay shot that video on the tarmac after they lost to Jacksonville and completed their meltdown. Last year, greater disaster. Matt Ryan, nothing like what we expected. I thought Matt Ryan was going to come in. Good offensive line. Don't really have the weapons, but get the run game. Well, their offensive line faltered. Wasn't nearly as good as they thought it would be. Jonathan Taylor was hurt. The weapons, they didn't have enough. Disaster. Okay. That was a dumpster fire of a season. It was really, really ugly. And I can't imagine they have the patience to develop a guy. They want to go get a guy they can plug and play right now. And that's CJ Stroud, in my opinion, at least. Now, there was an interesting theory out there, and Big B did comment this. Perhaps Will Levis ends up, he had it in him going to the Texans, but perhaps he ends up with the Colts. Maybe that's the guy they like more. And then the free fall really starts for Stroud. We're getting Brady Quinn territory at that point. But I just can't imagine that after all this pain they've gone through in the last couple of years, that they're just going to be like, hey, let's go get a guy that needs to sit. Yeah, we're going to do that. We got an all-world running back right now.
Whatever coach or whatever GM has to realize that they might not be drafting him for their tenure. They might be drafting him for the next guy. But then the next guy doesn't want him because they don't want to have to develop him anymore. And the team still stinks, so they have to go get someone else again. The path to Anthony Richardson being an NFL star is not a straight line, and it's not an easy path. Can he do it? Sure. He has the tools, but someone has to nurture him and develop him.
Here's the thing, Sean.
What is the thing?
I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate to you. I truly believe that if he's in the right situation, he has all the physical tools to have a legendary career. He's that gifted, but it has to be the right situation. And
how often does that happen?
That situation exists in Seattle and maybe nowhere else. Okay. Maybe Vegas, but that doesn't really fit what they look for in guys typically. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense to me. And it's somebody that ends up taking him in day 2 and your prophecy is fulfilled. And you know what, Sean? You've had a pretty good run lately. You were on Aaron Rodgers to the Jets months ago and nobody gives you credit. And by nobody, I mean the people who listen to this podcast because they're not active on social media and they don't have a place in the sports landscape, I guess. Point being, I am buying what you're selling, but if he ends up in the right situation, it's going to look bad on you. I know you're not afraid to take this risk.
Look, by no means am I saying he's going to suck. What I'm trying to say, maybe it hasn't come across clearly, is there are more situations in which he washes out of the NFL than there are he becomes the Hall of Famer that he says he wants to become. He wants to become the all-time great that he says he wants to become. There are more situations, there are more variables that say not going to be good than there are he's going to be a legend. But that being said, he absolutely still can be. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. And your point is heard and noted, and I'll write it down in the Google Doc. I have one last request for him. Stop backflipping. We get it. You're athletic. It's not going to make anybody draft you any higher. That's it. All right. Let's move on. Last question for draft preview before we move on to shift gears to F1 is the question I think that probably is going to matter more than anything. I mean, quarterback's the most important position in sports, but the best non-quarterback in this draft is Katie.
I've gone back and forth with this one, and so I understand all of the reasoning as to why you shouldn't draft a running back in the first round.
Oh.
This guy is the exception.
Are you
It's
going?
Bijan Robinson.
Really? Yes.
This
okay.
guy is.
Okay.
He is a stud. I think he has superstar potential. I think he's a 3-down back. And he's so explosive. Like, what comps do you have for that? That's like a Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley level. Like, he's got the speed. When I watch him, I just got goosebumps as I'm talking about Bijan Robinson. I need a hobby.
That's what happened to me at the combine when Richardson threw his first 50-yarder. I got goosebumps on my arm. Anyways.
I really hope that he goes to Green Bay just because, Wisconsin, big cheese state, brats, mustard, and then he can have that Bijan Mustardson brand right there in Wisconsin.
Finally, Bijan has the mustard. But anyways, Katie, what you were saying?
I think he would be an amazing fit on the Chargers.
Oh yeah, the dream.
Yeah, Eckler once out.
Yep, I think that would be a dream situation for them.
I think it would be. I see the Eagles' names floated around a lot. Is Miles Sanders just done or?
No, he's gone. He's in Carolina.
Oh, he's gone?
Yeah.
He's in Carolina? How did I miss that?
No,
I'm serious.
Because Sean, you cover all the sports. You cover all the sports, and I just cover football. So
you know what it is? You have no idea how many times I'm like, wait, when did that happen? Oh, yesterday. Oh, sorry. I was down at the Trop. What happened?
It rained? What?
What? There was a dome. It rained?
Yeah, that happened, Sean. But
well, okay.
Katie, I like that fit. I know that you a little bit of Chargers fandom and dream, scenarios showing up here, and I get it and I respect it because he would be freaking awesome in that situation.
But he would be in all situations. That's how I am on Bijan Robinson. I think no matter what situation he goes into, he's going to be electric. He's someone that I want in all of my fantasy football drafts.
Okay, so there's a rule, right? Running backs are devalued. I mean, go look at Kareem Hunt still being a free agent. The money's not there. The value's not there anymore, right? So in that same vein, you don't take a running back in the first round. My comp, and it's only a loose comp, is the last running back that I can think of who was taken in the top 5 that made a huge impact immediately was Ezekiel Elliott. And he's kind of built like Zeke. He's probably built better than Zeke. But when I watch him run, I kind of think of Zeke, but he's a much better Zeke. Zeke went 4th overall. There's that. If that's the standard, and the standard is the standard, then there's no argument against taking him wherever you want. He's that good. That's my answer for this question too. Not to jump you in the line, Sean, but that's my answer to this question too. He's the best he's an amazing football player. I watched him at the combine from the suite. I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, this guy is head and shoulders better than everybody. This is the best running back I've ever seen at the combine. He's just awesome. He looks different. When he's built different, man. I didn't need to see his hair or the number on his shirt that he was wearing in the workout. I just watched him move and I was like, yep, there's Bijan. Clearly the best running back by far in this entire group. I think anybody who takes him is going to be happy with him. But I also think that the first round pick is not the wisest investment in any running back because the longevity is not there. And that's the only thing keeping them from pulling a Saints and Ricky Williams, baby. Trade the whole draft for him.
But hey, I mean, look at Saquon Barkley after all of the injury problems he's had, after everyone saying, all right, this guy's done, it didn't happen. Again, he was the rule. You drafted him number 2 overall, didn't pan out, and now he comes back and he's an all-pro again. It happens. And when you have a freak athlete like that, yeah, maybe you do take him. I will say I was at the Buccaneers pre-draft press conference last week. Jason Light was speaking, and he was asked pretty much, and I love this about pre-draft press conferences because Nick and I were talking about this right after the draft or right after that press conference. Every GM is asked, would you take a quarterback? Yeah, I take a quarterback. Would you take a edge rusher? Oh, of course I take an edge rusher. Would you take a linebacker? Oh, linebackers are always in need. And Jason Light was specifically asked, even though Rashad White is already on the roster, Leonard Fournette's been released, but Rashad White is supposed to be that next guy for the Bucs. Would you take a running back there at 19? He's like, I wouldn't be afraid to take a running back. He answered every question the same. He would take that guy. He would take an edge rusher, but it does speak to the fact that GMs, they don't always adhere to the rule that, can't draft this guy in the first round. Oh, can't draft that guy in the first round. If he's your guy, he's your guy. If you like him, take him.
Sean, you showed a little
Vontae Mack, no matter what.
No matter what. And taking a running back at 7 in that draft. You showed a little Midwest there with the
I do say oop. I do say oop.
Yep.
Pittsburgh's right there on the border, so we do. The oop does come in there.
The Warsher.
The Worsher. Before we shift gears, though, Nick, I do want to introduce a new segment. If we can.
Well, actually, hold on, Sean. I have one thing to say before we get to that. Not to interrupt you, but
no, that's fine.
I just thought of the best troll job you ever could have done to Jason Light, and it would have gotten you kicked out of the press conference room. So obviously, you're not.
I don't want to do that, but I'm all ears.
You should have looked him dead in the eye and been like, "Would you take a kicker in the first round?"
Would you take a long snapper?
A guy named Roberto Aguayo, a second round pick. There is precedent, kind of.
Well, it is funny you mentioned that because I did the question that I was able to get in that press conference. Nick had to actually write about it, and it was funny. If you didn't know this, Katie, I asked Jason Light.
Of course she doesn't know.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if she reads your stuff, man. Like I asked.
Not off the top of my head, Sean.
I asked Jason Light what his war room is like during the draft, and if it's as exciting as the movie Draft Day makes it out to believe. Which got a good laugh out of the room. And he actually said he likes that movie a lot. And somehow that found its way through the NFL.com wires to Nick's desk. And he wrote about it. And Nick, as I'm texting Nick about this pre-draft press conference is so boring. It's, you don't get anything. And Nick texted me like, yeah, but he likes the movie Draft Day. Breaking news, Jason Light likes Draft Day. I was like, don't make fun of me. He's like, I'm not making fun of you. I was like, yeah, that's the question I asked. He goes, no way.
I was like, yeah, I'm sitting there. We're watching the press conference and somebody puts in the Slack, hey, he said it's like Draft Day. We should write about it. And I was like, damn. And then I find out Sean asked the question. I was like, you are directly impacting my day from
yes, I am. That's
500 miles away.
That's my story on Thursday, and I'm excited for it.
I love that for you both.
Oh, there it is.
It really was like worlds colliding.
All right. Oh, geez. Let's shift gears. We're going over to F1. This is the Gridiron Podcast, episode 2. And what do we do on the Gridiron
brakes.
Podcast, folks? What do we do? What do we do on the Gridiron Podcast? What's the grid in Gridiron?
Well, are we not introducing the new segment?
Oh, yeah, we are. Go ahead.
We apparently mess up intros and mess up.
We're going to save that for the end.
Segues. Right. Well, if we save it for the end, then what's the incentive to wait around for the middle? Or do you want to wait for the end?
Well, this episode is brought to you by no one, and thank you for sticking around. Now to the episode. Let's do it at the end. It's a nice finisher before hater alert.
That's
right?
fine.
Right?
That's
okay.
fine.
All
Okay,
right. That's a tease, folks. That is a tease. Those of you wishing to become professionals, Sean Barry, right there, giving you the example of a tease. All right,
maybe
so we are going.
Exactly.
It worked out. We'll go with it. Formula One. April breaks over. Thank God. Feels like we haven't raced in months.
Dumbest thing in the world.
Dumbest thing. I mean, we could all use a vacation, Sean. Let's be honest. We could all use a vacation, but it's over. It's nearly over. It's done this week. Where are we going, folks? Where are we going?
Azerbaijan.
Is that like their official ringtone?
It is
Like when you land at the Baku International Airport, you're like, welcome to Azerbaijan.
You get in the elevator. 7th floor in Azerbaijan. Baku is the host of this race. Street circuit. You drive past a castle. Tires blow out on the front straight. Everything's great. It's a blast. It's actually a pretty difficult course.
This is my favorite street circuit, actually.
Yeah, I
It's my
agree.
favorite one. It's my favorite one.
It's the most chaotic.
I
It
hate to
is.
say it, but it's a lot better than Miami. We'll
Well,
say
and
that.
they're calling a lot of things street circuits these days. Like they're calling Miami a street circuit. Technically, yes, I guess it is. Same with Australia. Sure, technically, I guess.
That's a park circuit.
Exactly. But Montreal is technically a street circuit too.
Yeah, that's strange to me.
Like they're calling a lot of things street circuits. Like it's not, because this road right here exists only for Formula One, just like it in Miami. So no, I'm excited. I mean, just to get back to racing, but it's one of my favorite tracks to watch because chaos always ensues, and cars, as Big Me mentioned, always go vroom vroom.
He also put a car emote in there. Really doubling down. It's a blast, man. Like, I love the annual tradition of Charles Leclerc driving into the wall right next to the castle.
I am stupid.
It's great. It's
That's
a blast.
radio.
I love watching it. It's great. It's fantastic. There's all kinds of sections here. You get a long straight, high speed. You get S curves leading to that straight right into the DRS zone. The last sector is more higher speed, but you have the technical sector, the second one, where you're swooping in, you take a right through a bit of a chicane, you go around another tight hairpin, right along the castle, you go through there, you get up over around the bend. It's like you kind of get to let it rip coming out of there. And the first one, of course, is a race down to the straight. And if you're not Lewis Hamilton, you know how to use your brakes and not accidentally turn them off. And then you take a left, and then you take another left at the end of that straight where there's a runoff, and it's full bore DRS
Personally
down to the end
offended
of that.
Katie. That personally offended
Hey,
Katie.
I didn't make the magic button, okay? I'm not Houdini, all
you
right?
can slow down and see
At
the
no
moment
point.
where my heart broke.
At no point in that, what was that, 2021, right? At no point did he look in his rear view mirrors and goes, hey, why are my brakes on fire right now, guys? Is something wrong?
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you have a restart. Sometimes things like that happen, but it's a wonderful circuit. It's a real treat, and I'm super excited for it. What are we looking forward to, guys, here in Baku? Before we get into, because the format of the weekend itself is something that we also should discuss.
Yes.
But okay, all right, Sean, let's get right to it then. New sprint race rules. Let it rip.
I don't know what they are. And that should tell you all you need to know about the new sprint race rules, is that I now have to go look them up again because I read them about 4 or 5 times today, and I still have no idea what the hell these rules are for, what they mean, why. So here's the rules. On Friday, you're going to have practice 1, and then you're going to have the qualifying. So after one practice, you're going to have qualifying, which is usually on Saturday. That qualifying on Friday is going to start the grid for the actual race on Sunday. Then on Saturday, you are going to have what is going to be called the sprint shootout, which I believe you are actually going to have another form of qualifying that is going to start the sprint race, and it's like going to double as practice 2. In the sprint shootout, you have to use the Q1 tire for 12 minutes, the Q2 tire for 10 minutes, and the Q3 tire for 8 minutes. It's all just very confusing.
So it's medium, soft.
Yes.
For the tires in the qualifying for the sprint.
Sure. I don't
Sure.
understand
Great.
why the change, because it was so simple to follow before. Like, hey, we're gonna have practice 1, 2, 3, and then we're gonna have qualifying like normal but only on Friday, and then you're gonna have a sprint race on Saturday, and that's gonna start the grid for Sunday. I like that, because you also awarded points in the sprint race on Saturday, but it gave a little bit of chaos, and it made things just a little bit more, I don't know, interesting, just because you had the cars that are like, damn the torpedoes, I'm going to run this sprint race or run this qualifying like it's my last race because we can get up to the front. And then you had some cars that would hold back and play it safe, and they wind up, 12th, 11th, 13th, and they're one of the top 3 or 4 teams. That made things interesting, I think. And the fact that the sprint race isn't going to have any impact at all, unless I guess you crash out, on the actual race itself, I don't like that.
it's like a secondary race. It's very like NASCAR calling it a shootout too, but it's like a secondary event. Like, hey, you're here for the race Sunday, but if you show up Saturday, we're going to have a mini race for those of you who can't afford the full ticket price on Sunday. Like, make it matter. The whole point of the sprint was to add excitement to what is already a pretty exciting Saturday when you get qualifying. But instead of just getting Q1, Q2, Q3, you get a race. It's a shortened race, but it's a race. It's one shot. Nobody pits. Go get it. Go drive around on the track afterward on a bus and wear a wreath. You know, it's not as important as the big race, but it's still important. It's still worth points. And also, why the hell did you wait until today to confirm that this is the format? Like,
I didn't even know this was a thing that was happening.
What year is it?
They had so much time. There was a full break that they had, and they come up to race week, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, let's vote in it on Tuesday." But I guess all the teams, or not all, but enough voted for it, which I'm surprised by. Like, I'm in the camp of, I do want to see it before I cast a lot of judgment, because when I'm reading it, I'm like, are you kidding me? This is so stupid. Because I traditionally am one of those people, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm one of the weirdos that I enjoyed watching 3 free practice sessions. But Saturday is kind of its own day now. Like, Saturday is its own package day, which I find it so weird that qualifying is on Friday. So it's like you're watching quali on Saturday and it's like, hey, yeah, this isn't the one for tomorrow. And I think the teams that get kind of screwed, because it's only the top 8 cars that get points for sprint, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like all the mid to back teams where you just have to do more, it's
right, and spend
like
more
you're
money.
using your engines, you're spending more money. If there's a
In a
crash and you know
cost cap
you're not,
era.
yeah, in the cost cap era, where you know you're not even going to be in the running for points, because even finishing P10, a lot of teams struggle to get to. But getting to P8, like, there's a lot of teams that would probably just rather sit out because there's virtually no benefit to them. Like, even if they
Right.
go through the field, it doesn't
Right.
matter for the next day. So I'm looking at teams like Alpha Tauri, Alfa Romeo, that are probably looking at this like, get me out of here. Like, let me just do free practice where I don't have to be running the car super hard and risking a crash.
You're going to hear radio messages that are just going to say, hey, take it easy. Hey, you know, this pace is fine, even though you're 5 seconds off the pace. Like, what do we care? What are we going to gain here? We're not going to finish top 8. And the only thing that can happen is we break the car and then have to work on it all night before tomorrow's race that actually matters.
Let's add this in too. Another bit of strategy potentially. Here we go. You see that? In addition, a breach of Parc Fermé will result in a pit lane start for the sprint and the race, while power unit related penalties will only apply to the race unless they're also a Parc Fermé breach. So you could be like, hey, you know what? We got to change the power unit. We're going to take a penalty, but we're going to do it on a sprint weekend because we're going to try and go get that 8 points on the sprint weekend. And then we'll take our lumps in the actual race. Like, it just doesn't seem, make it make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It's like the F1 is, I think, I mean, good for the fans that are showing up and buying a ticket for Saturday. Like, they, you know, definitely feel like you get your money's worth. But at the same time, it's kind of like us at home are like, what?
Like, I'm confused
why?
still.
Yeah,
You went through
I
it, and
don't
I'm still
understand
confused.
what you're doing here.
Yeah, like, what? You didn't have to complicate it. It was fine. You know, you don't have to repaint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel here. It's already a masterpiece. Just let us enjoy it already. Damn it. All right, let's.
Lewis said it. Cash is king, and what's going to make more money? Free practice or a sprint or a quali?
And I'm not gonna lie, that's the first
the
thing
reality
I thought
of
of.
it.
Yeah, I was thinking, you know what, the NFL is really good at making everything a tentpole event, and the F1's kind of following suit here. Okay, let's kind of speed things up. No pun intended that time, because we're up against it in time. What did each team need over the break entering the end of April, the start of May?
Are we starting from back to front or front to back? Actually, what is the order? I haven't looked it up in a while.
I'll tell you in a second.
Yeah, you be the moderator here, Nick.
Let's go constructor stand. Let's speed through this as quick as possible. It's
Yeah,
Red
like
Bull,
1-2 word answers.
Red Bull, Aston Martin, Mercedes, Ferrari,
Because
McLaren.
if you didn't know, unlike the summer break, this April break, teams were actually allowed to work on their cars. In the summer break, you can't touch your cars. It is a break.
In the
People
summer
are home
break,
with their
Christian Horner
families.
goes camping with Ginger Spice.
Exactly.
And they document on Driver's Ed.
Now you can actually work on your car for 3 weeks while you're off. So teams have a major added advantage. So where are we starting, Nick?
If we want to go front to back, let's start with Red Bull.
Okay. Katie.
Red Bull, the thing they needed was just rest and relaxation because
Oh,
they'll be
yeah.
fine. I'm not worried about Red Bull one bit.
A little bit of R&R for RBR.
R&R.
Red Bull, all Red Bull needed over the April break was to have a sit-down chat with one Jos Verstappen. If you know, you know.
Yeah. A lot of acronyms that we're playing with here. All Red Bull needed over the break was fresh resupply Red Bull. That's it.
Stock the fridges.
Stock the fridges. Get the green edition out because that team behind us that copied our car. They're not close, but they're annoying. Aston Martin, number 2. What do they need, Katie?
Aston Martin needed to give Fernando Alonso a raise. Vibes are high, and Lawrence Stroll should be showering his new favorite son with gifts.
All Aston Martin needed was to play this drama perfectly, and they have with the Taylor Swift and Fernando Alonso possible relationship.
Katie, what's the name of that app? The
app, the one you have that we don't.
Yeah.
Raya or Raya, I think it's pronounced. Thanks for putting me on the dating app.
We're not sponsored by anybody, but if you want to sponsor,
thanks for letting the world know how painfully single I am, guys. I appreciate that.
But at least you're on the famous single people app.
Yeah, because you are famous, right?
Yeah. Notably famous. Yes,
exactly. I know.
I typically lead with that.
Well, there was a reason I asked that, and the reason is all Aston Martin needed to do was delete that app. Hinge, the app that's made to be deleted.
Not sponsored by Hinge.
Not sponsored by anybody. If you're interested in sponsoring us, hit us up.
Hold on 1 second. I can confirm or deny if Taylor Swift and Fernando Alonso are an item. My girlfriend was at the concert last week. Real quick, hey babe, did Taylor have like a spring in her step at the Tampa concert last week? Just shrugged her shoulders. So still unconfirmed. We don't know.
All right. Well, it remains to be seen. The mystery still exists. All right. Number 3 on the list, Mercedes. What do they need?
I think Mercedes needs a darkness retreat.
Oh.
Your side pod solution will come. You will get there. Just maybe you need 4 days in the dark and get some DMT-like hallucinations.
Yeah.
Jeez. All Mercedes needed was to hire back James Allison, which they did. And now as their technical director, he's going to right the ship.
All Mercedes needed was a fresh set of tools to implement some of the changes that they got coming because they've been talking about it and they're not even close to reaching the potential of the car, supposedly, but they're still hanging on to those damn minimalist side pods that made everybody lose their minds last year and proved to be a joke. Ditch them, please. Ditch them.
But let's run it back by all means.
Why not? It's already there. We've already spent the money. Ferrari, 4th on the list. What do they need?
A pain management therapy program for both drivers.
Oh, yes.
That is not a time where I want to go into a 4-week break. They both had a rough first 3 races.
I'm sad now.
All Ferrari needed was a bulldozer and a wrecking ball because, man, those castle walls got to come down in Baku because Charles is not having it.
All Ferrari needed was an airbag in preparation of that crash. That's going to happen because it always does.
It's fine. Everything is fine.
5th on the list, Sean's team, McLaren. What do they need? I mean, they need a lot, but what do they need, Katie?
I just have one word, upgrades. McLaren needs upgrades.
That's the only word I had in my mind, too. They promised upgrades for Baku. We better see some upgrades. That's it.
McLaren needs a new version of Google Chrome because the one they got on their wheels ain't doing it.
It just keeps spinning.
Yeah. It ain't doing it. Number 6 on the list.
Microsoft Bing Energy.
Oh, gross.
Exactly. Exactly.
They might as well put the Internet Explorer icon on the wheels because that's how slow they are.
The 2023 McLaren Mercedes Racing brought to you by Netscape. Mozilla Firefox. What does Alpine need?
Alpine needs a time machine. Vibes were super high in Australia before the 3rd restart. Woof.
Alpine just needs to figure it the F out. Are you up or down, high or low? I don't know. I can't figure this team out.
Alpine needs to get some new radios because their communication, the rapport between the drivers, not great. Not that they have a terrible relationship, but They can't avoid running into each other, and that's a problem. Now, is this last race reactionary? Yeah, sure, but that's all we got to go off of right now. And so that's more. They're going to need some Pepto-Bismol, which, that pink car, that'll do the trick if they don't figure things out. Number 7 on the list. Sean calls it Haas, but it's Haas. What do they need?
They need to stretch their hips. Both of their drivers are in their mid-30s, and I'm in my mid-30s, and everything hurts on my body.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what they needed to do for the 3 weeks, is just stretch. Maybe Gunter can just keep protesting for the whole 3 weeks, because I really wanted that Hulkenberg podium. I'm not over it, but just stretch. Everybody there, you're in your 30s. You're not as young as you used to be.
Haas needs to paint their car.
There it is.
I almost said Aston Martin. Haas needs to paint their car any different color than what it is, because anytime Nico Hulkenberg is in just a random colored car that he showed up to that weekend, he's a legend. Anytime he's actually in his car, just
wanker.
Wanker.
It was right there, Sean.
I didn't want to say that, but he's mid. He's not a wanker. He's mid. But they need to paint it green or paint it pink, and he'll think he's in a completely different car and go.
This is what they signed up for. They're paying their penance for what they decided to do. What does Haas need? A new boat. Maybe not necessarily like a new car entirely, but a new boat. Gunter probably pretty uncomfortable in that tiny thing, especially after what they've had to deal with lately.
Maybe a longer pit wall they could use.
Yeah, a few things, I think. They need you're right. The time machine works, man. They need to rediscover what they did before. Jeez. Alfa Romeo. Now we're getting into the bottom of irrelevance. What do they need?
For Zhou to cut his hair into a mullet. That team needs a morale boost in a big way, and I don't think it would hurt.
No?
I don't think haircuts hurt.
No.
Who are they becoming? Are they becoming Porsche or are they becoming Audi? I forget.
Audi.
Okay, they need a time machine to fast forward to 2026 and just become Audi already.
Yeah.
That's all they need.
Yeah, I was going to go on that page
Big
too.
time.
Let's bring the 4 rings over, and maybe they'll actually compete, because right now, no, not there. AlphaTauri, what do they need?
A much longer break. Those cars are just so slow. Like, painfully slow for being affiliated with Red Bull. But yeah, they just needed a lot more time. Like, everybody's looking at this like, oh, this is so long. And they're like, we need 6 more weeks to be at least serviceable.
AlphaTauri need to give Yuki Tsunoda more credit for the job he's done in such a donkey of a car. I am impressed. I am impressed.
That is accurate. AlphaTauri, they need the password. They need the entry code. They need a key card to Milton Keynes. Get some of that technology from Red Bull. You're supposed to be a junior team or a sister team. Let's get some sibling love instead of such a rivalry. Stop hiding all the secrets, Red Bull. Help this team out. And finally, Williams. What do they need?
Just to stay on the path that they're on. They're going to be fighting for points, and it's amazing, and I'm just really happy. I love what's happening with Williams right now.
All Williams needs is to paint some stars and stripes and maybe a bald eagle on the side of the car, because America's coming home to Miami. Florida boys coming home and going to race.
Rock, flag, and eagle. I think what Williams needs is to just keep on trucking. I like it. I like what we got from
about
them.
the team that's in last place. We're like,
Yeah,
they're trying.
They
They're
got 1
hard.
point, but like the gap between the back of the field and in past years to now is so much closer. Like they're competitive. They're not just bringing up the rear anymore.
Right.
I'm excited for them. I think the Dirilliton capital and everything else is starting to have an effect. I mean, look, I'm not going to mince words here. I was fired the hell up watching the qualifying for Australia at the bar and seeing Williams competing for spots. I was like, oh my God, they matter.
I will
even a
say
little bit.
I just got a media alert today in my email for a Williams event in Miami next week, and I'm like talking to my bosses. I'm like, can I go?
You're like,
and I'm hoping.
I can't get the access to Red Bull, but Williams,
right? Hey, they're at last place. They're the worst team, but they have a Florida driver. So there's my in.
Yeah, that might work, actually. I like that idea. All right, that's it for what the teams need. We kind of previewed this, Sean. Do we want to talk about the Fernando Alonso and Taylor Swift? I feel like,
yes.
All right.
Okay. Time be damned. This is fun. Karma is a Fernando.
I love this storyline. Taylor Swift as an F1 wag is something I am so extremely here for.
Oh my god.
An F1 wag. I love it.
Oh my god, the
I'll
way
just
she
say-
said wag. Oh my god. An
All
F1
it took
wag.
was one TikTok video of him looking up from his phone and winking, and that's all the information I need. I'm in. I am cheering for them. What would their celebrity name be?
I've thought about it, but there's really nothing good. Is it like Taynando?
Taynando.
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 Swift Lonzo. Yeah,
Swift-
Taynando.
I've brought this up because it is so funny because like Fernando Alonso is not a bad looking dude at all. And he's played this off so well. If you follow him
I
on
agree.
TikTok, like he's just sitting there with like a Taylor Swift song playing in the background, looks up at the camera, winks. And it's like, whether it's true or not, he's playing into it. He's leaning right into it and good for him. And everyone's like, oh, he's so old. Okay, first off, he's 41. She's 33. She has dated older than him before. John Mayer is older than Fernando Alonso.
How old's John
Jake
Mayer?
Gyllen- he's in his mid-40s now.
Okay.
Jake Gyllenhaal is older than Fernando Alonso. Like, it's an 8-year, like a 7.5-year difference. When you're in your 30s and 40s, that's not that bad.
Yeah, we're not here to date shame. She's
No.
dated people older than him, and that's okay.
My fiance's a year older than me.
Now he is like 5'5", so I mean, the height.
We love a short king on this podcast.
We love a short king.
We're not short, but we support.
Exactly. As a short queen, we like short kings too.
Yeah.
Short kings matter.
Crowns for everybody, even if you can't reach them off the shelf.
I don't think, and it's funny too because so many racers have been asked about like, is this real? Like Bubba Wallace this weekend at Talladega was asked about it, and he was like,
Amazing.
Fernando and Taylor? For real? Good for her and for him. And then like during
Does
a
he really
live-
have that hard of an accent?
He does. He's from North Carolina, so like yeah, he has the Kakalaki accent. And then Lando was on like one of his friend's streams. And he's like laying on a bed in the background. He's like, Lando, did you hear about this? Is Taylor and Fernando Alonso like a real thing? He's like, no, but me and Margot Robbie are.
Oh.
I was like, okay, Lando's still playing at the kids' table. We get it.
Yeah. Oh, in my heart, they are a couple and they're doing great. I'm cheering for them because it helps me sleep easier at night. Just hoping that they're a couple. That's
Interesting.
just brings joy to the world.
I guess. Sure. We'll go with that. I'm probably the least cultured of the three when it comes to Taylor Swift's music beyond her first album. 16. You know, that's
I got to
basically
listen to like a couple songs just driving around town the other week, just
Sean had
because I
fun,
live
mate.
so close to the stadium.
Yeah, Sean had a good time.
No, I didn't. I did not. No, I did not.
No names, please. All right. I guess that wraps that up. All right. It's time for you guys to roast me.
All right, cool. We got a new segment this week that we're going to start every time we podcast, and we're going to call it Do You Even Know? And we got to say it like that. Do you even know?
Actually,
And the premise of this is two of us are going to grill the third person. We're going to ask them sports-related questions, 3, and the kicker is they're not going to have any time to prepare. So Nick actually does know the subject of which we were about to quiz him, but this is the only time.
I'm a man of integrity, and I did not
Exactly.
do any research.
Exactly. So he doesn't know the questions we're going to ask him. He does know the topic, but this is the only time that the interviewee will know the topic. So the topic tonight is the NHL because Cleveland, famously not a hockey city. Katie's from a hockey background. Hockey is my favorite sport. So we're going to grill Nick on some hockey knowledge. 3 questions, starting with this one, Nick. And it's an easy one. This is going to be the easiest one, I promise. Do you even know which team has won the most Stanley Cups?
Is it the Canadians?
Yes, it is the Montreal Canadiens.
Hey,
with 24. There we go.
Glut.
I wanted to start off easy because Katie's is pretty difficult.
Katie is stunned that I knew that.
Big time, yes. Nick, do you even know there are 2 current players in the NHL with over 80 points and over 120 penalty minutes? Who are they?
Is McJesus isn't involved, right?
He
Nope.
is not.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, guess the other one. You have to guess 2.
Yeah, 2. Just throw out 2 names.
No, I have nothing.
Tell you what, one plays for Florida and the other one plays for Ottawa.
That does nothing for me.
What a good sport, Nick. Do you only know one hockey player? Is that why? We're not here to shame you.
I just know
Just
a lot
guess
of
a different
Kings and
hockey
some
player.
other guys and the what's his name that plays for the
They
Blue
are
Jackets.
here, final clue. They're brothers.
Oh,
The only brothers I knew of were the Subans. And they're out.
well, yeah, not in the league. Okay, so one is Matthew Tkachuk. The second one, Brady Tkachuk.
Was their dad also a hockey player?
Yes, for the St.
Yes.
Louis Blues.
Yes, I did know that guy.
Okay,
You're doing amazing, Nick.
there we go.
That guy. 1 for 2.
Final question, Nick, so you can get above 500 here. The past 9 President's Trophy winners, which is the trophy awarded to the team that finishes with the best regular season record and most points.
Oh,
The
God.
past 9 President's Trophy winners have failed to win the Stanley Cup. Who was the last team to win both the President's Trophy and the Stanley Cup? Oh, sorry. Do you even know who the last team to win the President's Trophy and Stanley Cup in the same season were?
Actually, it was the was it the Pittsburgh Penguins?
No, it wasn't.
Wait, can you give me a year? I might be able to be good with years.
2011, 2012.
Oh,
Katie just figured it out if she didn't already know. I saw the look.
I'm out.
It was the Chicago Blackhawks.
Oh yeah, because they went on a run there. They won like what 3 in a row or something like that.
3 in like 6 years or something like that.
Yeah, there you go. They're like the Giants of hockey. Yeah.
Nope.
All right.
Yeah, the New York or the San Francisco Giants. They won a title every other year.
Yeah. I mean, all right, close. All right, and this has been Do You Even Know?
Do you even know?
And apparently, Nick did not.
I did not know. All right, last segment of the show. Jesus, that was terrible.
This is going to be fun. Who gets it next week?
I'll volunteer.
All right, cool. Nick and you and I got to team up.
What can I grill Katie on?
We'll figure it out. We got to we
Do
can't
you
tell her.
even know Quentin Tarantino movies?
No.
Okay. Do you even know how long The Hateful Eight was? Oh my God.
Long.
Yes, Samuel L. Jackson was in it.
Too long.
Hate it or love it. What's your guys' hate?
Sean, you kick this one off.
I already told Katie my hate. Can I say it or is it too mean?
No, of course. This is a safe space for this.
My hate is pretty much just all of the Toronto hockey media atmosphere. It's just I'm at game 4 of the opening round between the Bolts and Maple Leafs last night at Amalie Arena in Tampa, and it's like local Tampa media was outnumbered like 5-1. Like we waited around for the Lightning head coach John Cooper to finish his press conference, and I'm just waiting around because normally they bring a player or two in because of the fashion in which the Lightning lost last night, imploding with 10 minutes to go and losing in overtime. No players came out to the podium, and so I'm like waiting and waiting and waiting. All of a sudden, like 50 people, all from Canada, all covering the Leafs, walk into this room that's already pretty packed, and I'm like, okay, I guess A, the Lightning are done. B, these guys are taking over. And it wasn't just that. The coffee was out. The food was out when I got there. They were like locusts. They were like a plague descending upon our media room here in Tampa. So I just oh, and also when the Lightning won, or when the Leafs won in overtime, someone got on their phone and played the Leafs goal song.
Oh, that's gross.
In like
impartial.
in the quiet media room, like all you heard when the Leafs won in overtime were like, oh wow, and then someone like starts playing their goal song. I'm like, dude, come on, get off it. So the Toronto hockey media, just you're my hate this week, man. Not a good taste in my mouth.
When I tell you, I feel every word that you just into my soul. Well, because I'm Western Canada, so we like Canucks, Flames, Oilers. I went to school in Toronto, and when I went, everybody here is like, what the hell, Katie? You're going to the dark side. I'm like, I know, and then I'll leave right away, I promise. But so I came up the ranks in the Toronto media. We call it's TSN is supposed to be the sports network. It's Toronto Sports Network. Every single thing is center of the universe in Toronto. The running joke among media members outside of Toronto is, yeah, but how does that affect the Leafs? Because every single thing about hockey in any manner turns to how it somehow impacts the Leafs.
It's kind of like ESPN, like, oh, wow, like Aaron Rodgers got traded to the Jets. But how does that affect the Knicks and LeBron?
Yes,
in LA?
Exactly.
Thank you. The Lakers and the Knicks and the Yankees. That's New York media in the States right there. There you go.
Same vibes with Toronto. But my hate this week is the Leafs winning. They won the last game, and I was really disappointed in that because the Leafs have had high expectations so many years in a row. This is finally going to be it. This is finally going to be it. And they haven't got out of the first round since 2004. So every year that it's the year, it's almost 20 years since they've made it out of the first round. So they're up 3-1 in the series. So people are starting to lose their minds. This is different. This is different. And I'm sitting here like, what about all the other series where you were up 3-1 and then you blew it in such magical fashion? So I hate that they're winning, but I still hold on to hope that they will find the most amazing, creative, beautiful way to blow it.
Okay, I'll tell you what. In my sports office, we're already planning to work Saturday night for Game 6. That's how much belief, not that we have in the Lightning, but how much belief we have in the Leafs getting this done. Actually, like it's not anything about the Lightning. They played putrid over the last couple of periods, really. But yeah, we know the Leafs. Sort of like
the Leafs lose to themselves.
Probably be home Saturday. Exactly, the Leafs beat themselves. We'll be home on Saturday.
It's so funny because that's exactly how Knicks fans are acting right now. Like it's the exact same thing. Like they're kindred spirits. They're the same way. Every win at the Garden, Knicks baby, let's go. You know, it's gross. And like I say that as a Cavs fan, but like I just don't like New York fans in general. I'm sorry your team didn't make the playoffs, Katie.
Both teams.
Look, yeah,
that's okay. I'm used to it.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's gross. My hate is not nearly as timely, but I hate it. I've really grown to hate it. It's a growing trend, and it's among fans of particular teams on social media or in conversation. They refer to players as their jersey numbers. Like when I was with the Browns, so many people would be like, well, as long as we got 6, we're good for Baker. Or it's like, oh, 95. I hate that. Like I see people tweet it where they're like, that shouldn't even matter about 13 and 80. Like they have names.
Unless you're a coach or like a teammate, don't say that.
Oh, I hate it. It's the worst. And another hate I have, it's super like stupid and small, but Bridget and I went to Syracuse last week and, spur of the moment trip that we had to go on. And we stopped off in like Western New York to grab a bite to eat right along Lake Erie. And it was this really small mom and pop. And I walked in there and it was like 2:00. And I'm like, I'll get an Italian sausage because why not? But every menu in a small place, I can't stand this. And it goes back to when I worked in a kitchen like this at a restaurant in high school. I hate it when places call one of their meals. It's always like 1 or 2 of their meals. Blank dinner, like fried fish dinner. It is 2 p.m. That's dinner. If anything, it's lunch. Okay. All right.
Such a random hate.
Why is this Italian sausage?
This is a safe space, but that's weird.
This is grilled salmon, but this is the chicken finger dinner. Like you don't need to put dinner on it. Okay. I know I'm here for the meal. Stop calling it a dinner. Those are my
That feels so American. I think I've never seen that in my life.
It's gross. I don't like it.
I hate it.
Yeah. Good. See, there we go. All right. What's your loves?
Sean?
Katie?
No? Loves?
No,
all
you
right,
first.
guys.
No, you started.
Chivalry.
You said Leafs.
No,
I started.
No, it's you,
sorry.
Katie. Nope.
Now,
you, Sean.
Now it's Katie.
Screw you. It's Katie.
Okay, well, fine. So I love this time of year. NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, F1, NFL draft. Days are longer and I'm way less sad. And it's not -1 billion in Canada. Everything is coming up Millhouse in April.
-1 billion.
-1 billion.
Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Fahrenheit, because Celsius makes more sense. If it was Celsius, I would have said -25.
So if it's -1 billion Fahrenheit, then what is it minus in Celsius? Never mind.
67.
Okay.
My love is, I will kind of piggyback off that, but my love is specifically like baseball. Baseball is supposed to be fun, and too often people forget that it's not, or it is a fun sport. It really is. Getting an up close, front row seat of what the Tampa Bay Rays have done this season, tying a modern major league record, starting with 13 straight wins. I quoted the stat that this hasn't been done since the 1872 New York nickel pennies. I actually said that on air. I said
it was
like,
fun. It was really good.
1879 New York nickel pennies and the Akron rubber makers. Those teams don't exist, but that's what made it so much fun. Like them going on that ride, they've stayed hot. They're 20-4. Like Jesus Christ, it's such a fun ride. At the same time, the Pittsburgh Pirates, like who are the team I actually root for, they have the best record in the National League right now. Not expected. They signed their franchise player today. Like baseball is fun to watch, and getting to actually enjoy that is it's like a religious experience. It's a romantic experience. Like in Moneyball, how can you not be romantic about baseball? So I love the fact that baseball is fun again, at least for me.
I would say I love playoff basketball, but the Cavs are down 3-1, so I hate everything. That's the show, everybody. I'm checking comments.
Cavs in 7.
Yes, always and forever, even though I don't have confidence in them this time around. I don't think they're tough enough to win, but like I said, I hate everything. Big B's hate is when chairs break. His recliner broke. That sucks.
That does suck.
Sorry. I'm sorry, Big B.
And he also said about the dinner thing, I worked at a restaurant and it was always roast beef dinner, microwave beef, potatoes in a bag, and a roll.
I thought you were going to say you hate how all menus at mom and pop shops are sticky. That's what I thought you were going with that.
Well, I mean, that's part of the charm, Sean.
Yeah. Are the menus not sticky in Canada?
No, never.
Well, then how do you know if the food's good?
You try it.
That seems backwards. This country, Nick.
Yeah. Those Canucks. Yeah, everything wrong. This
your universal health care and your clean menus.
This has been episode 2 of the Gridiron Podcast. I almost said the Sean Shook Podcast. That is
how embarrassing.
Embarrassing indeed. This has been fun. It was long. We talked about a lot. And I'm really looking forward to the race this weekend. So we will be back next week because there's a race and we have a draft recap. So no break for us. No break at all for F1 either. Bunch of races coming up. Miami next weekend. What's the one after that?
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah, we'll figure it out when we get there. For Sean Barry and Katie Caldwell, I'm Nick Shook. This has been episode 2 of the Gridiron Podcast. As a reminder, we're sponsored by nobody, but you can change that with just a quick message. Reach on out. Let us know. Until next time, Sean, I forget how we ended the last podcast. Oh, you
live life in the fast lane, guys.
Was it that? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it was that.
Let's scrap that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. That's it. So long. Thanks for watching and listening. See ya.